Today we are looking at the art of Georgia O'Keeffe. And Georgia O'Keeffe was an American painter. She was born in Wisconsin and she died in New Mexico, and she lived into her late 90s, and that is quite old. That might be even older than your grandma is, if you know how old your grandma is. And she was continuing to paint as an artist all throughout her lifetime. So even when she was quite old, she was still painting. She started painting when she was just a young girl, and her teachers sometimes discouraged her and tried to change the way that she painted. And she chose to move to New York City to study, where she could receive some serious training and attention to her unique talent. She did become a great painter, and Georgia O'Keeffe is famous for her paintings of flowers that fill up the whole canvas. If you look at this picture here, you can see that her flower is touching both sides, and she's looking very closely at the flower. All of the ways the petals are wavy, and the inside of the flower, what it looks like. Today we're going to be making a drawing of a close-up of a red poppy flower as well, where you can see all the little edges of the flower and you can see the inside. We're going to be adding some watercolor to this. First, let's start with our drawing. Your paper is going to be the horizontal way, and at the top of your paper, as usual, write your name. After that, turn it over to the other side. And we're going to start close to the bottom here. We're going to make the first part of the flower touch all the way at the bottom of our paper. I'm going to start closer to the right side, but not all the way on the right, and draw a curved line that's coming up onto the paper. And then I'm going to make the other side of that petal, it's going to be wavy. So I can make it kind of wiggly and wavy. It doesn't all have to be the same, just different kinds of waves until I get back down to the edge of the paper. And then I'm going to add the underneath part of that petal by drawing a line that curves down to touch. Okay, next I'm going to start drawing these petals here that are inside, and after that the inside of the flower, and then the outside petals. So I'll start in the middle of this curved line here and make a line that's curving up, and then I'm going to make it wavy. It doesn't matter if your wavy part looks exactly like mine. Just kind of has to be wiggly and wavy. Then, when I've gotten more than halfway up the paper, I stop and I'm going to curve it back down to touch. Alright, now I'm going to do the petal that's on the other side here. I'm going to start on this curved line and make that line wavy. And keep going. Then I stop and change directions to come back down to touch. Okay, next I'm going to make the inside of the flower. And you can see the way that Georgia O'Keeffe has painted the inside of her flower. See these little tiny details here. I'm using some short straight lines. And then I'm going to make some curved lines that show the very middle. Okay, the next part is I'm adding the petals that are coming out. And I'm going to start here on this corner. And I'm going to make a wiggly wavy line until I come in and touch about right here. Okay, so that makes it look like this petal is wrapping around inside. Next I'm going to make this one coming this way, and it will come to about here. So I'm going to start at this corner and I'm going to make a wiggly wavy line. And now I'm going to add a couple more petals, one on the left side and one on the right. I'll start with my petal on the left side. I'll start here on the top, and then I'm going to make it wiggly and wavy until I touch all the way to the edge of my paper. Then I pretend like that flower petal is coming around and down to touch over here. So I start here, closer to the bottom, and I make that wavy line keep going. Until I touch the other petal. Okay, next, my last petal on this side, I'm going to make this one come off the edge of the paper too. So I'm starting somewhere on this petal, and I make it wavy until I come off the page. Then I come down here, so I pretend like it's coming around off the page and then back on again. And this time I'm going to make the line a little bit more simple. I'm just going to make it curve back in. And there's another part of this petal that's coming up. So I'm going to make one more curved line in here. Okay, I've got my drawing of my flower, and now I'm ready to add some watercolor paint to it. I'm going to show you guys a technique for how to create a gradient with watercolor, how to make it lighter and darker in some places. In order to get it lighter, I need to add more water, and in order to get it darker, I need to add more of the pigment or more of the watercolor. So when I want a part that's lighter, I need to make sure there's more water on my brush and less paint. And when I want it darker, I need to make sure there's more paint on my brush and less water. Okay. Now, the easy way to do this so that it doesn't look like streaks of paint, to make it so that it just kind of softly changes from one part to the next part, is to make the whole petal wet first and then add your color afterwards. So I'm going to add a little water on my brush, and I'm going to choose a petal to start with. I'm going to choose this part inside here, and if I paint with water there's no color, but it's getting my paper wet. Okay, and since this is a water marker, you can see part of the color of the marker is going to come up on there too. If you're using the water markers, the color will come up. If you're using the other kind of markers that are not washable, then the color will not come up. Okay, next I brush on my red, Okay, and I put a lot on my red, a lot on my brush. And I start at the part where it's the darkest, and that's close to this part down here in the middle of the flower. So I add it down there. Then, as it spreads, it's going to get lighter and lighter. But I'm also going to wash my brush a bit to add the lighter part. So I just dip it in the water and brush it off some. So I've still got a little bit of red on there. If it looks like you've got a lot of red on your brush still, you can dip it again. And then spread that red out. So see how there's no sharp line here? It's all spreading out very nicely because I added the water first.